Happy Sunday night, and welcome to another meeting of the Park Adventurers Club. Thank you guys so much for being with us. If you followed us on that old adventure, we have upped our game, and we are on this new channel. It is Park Adventurers Club. Follow us, like us, give this a thumbs up as other people can find us. And tonight we're going to be talking about Halloween Horror Nights. That's our big topic, but we also have some other news to cover. But first, man, let's introduce you to this crew because whoo, man, these people have not been on the same stage since I don't know when, starting with Annie from Adventuring with Annie. What's going on?
Hey Rob, how are you?
I'm scared. Never go alone. That's what I always say. And that's why I'm glad you guys are here. And then our good friend Charlie, what's going on, man?
I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us. And again, make sure to give a like for these folks. Make sure to give us some chats and let us know that you guys are out there. That's why we do it live. Tonight, we are running this like a meeting, guys. If you didn't know that already, it's the Park Adventurers Club, calling it to order. I got a gavel. It's all kinds of official. And then, of course, like any other kind of a meeting, we have an agenda. So let's take a look at the agenda for tonight's meeting. Obviously, the big topic is going to be the Halloween Horror Nights. We're going to talk about stuff on the East and West Coast. Which one was best? How are the houses, the scare zones, all that kind of stuff. But we're going to start with the reading of the minutes, which is actually the top 5 stories in theme park news over the past week. And the first thing I want to talk about is super sad and concerning, which is someone passed away, died on the Epic Universe roller coaster Stardust Racers. It's scary and sad when things like that happen. When we are in a theme park, we always think it's like we're in a safety bubble, but this is still kind of an ongoing investigation as to what exactly happened. But Annie, you're right there in in that world. What were your thoughts when you heard about this?
I know there's still more details coming out. We have a lot of information right now, but I think one of the biggest concerns from people is the ride safe? And
Yeah.
they are going to go through all sorts of procedures, but yes, I'm going to say to you, the ride is safe. Um, it wasn't something that happened. It's not the ride's fault. I use this example. If you're pregnant and you get on a ride knowing you're pregnant and the sign says you should not ride, do not ride if you are pregnant, you have this condition, you get on, if you lose your baby, you knew that you were pregnant, you got on the ride. It wasn't really the ride that, the ride isn't not safe, if you have a pre-existing condition. So I think if he had, some sort of health problems and got on and that was triggered by the ride, it doesn't mean the ride isn't safe, but that's why all of those warnings are so important to read.
Yeah, no, for sure. The very first thing that I heard about it, when I heard about it, there was a lot of misinformation out there, and somebody said he was thrown, and that's a completely different, that did not happen. But I mean, like, that's a completely different thing. Like you were saying, the ride itself is safe. This was something that happened to this to this poor gentleman, but. Again, like I said, I feel like we needed to address it because it was big news. And of course, all of the, the Orange County police are still looking into this and exactly what went down. Charlie, any thoughts before we move on from this one?
No, I mean I come from Santa Clarita where Six Flags Magic Mountain is, and those are rides that actually are unsafe in some cases. And like we get deaths reported on now and again, and it's like, well, yeah, like the brakes failed, so like of course somebody got whacked. So I think this is one of those things, like Annie said, it is inherent to his condition rather than a failing of the park like Six Flags does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I bring one real quick? I know we don't want to dwell too long on it, but I got to say,
Mhm.
if you remember the drop tower here at Icon Park, where the kid came out of the drop tower, he should not have been riding, and that was something that it fell down onto the ride operators that did not do their job on the end, I believe. And that's just my understanding of it, but that's something where that's really tragic, and that was a lot of based on ride operator and the ride system. maybe they had made adjustments, but the Stardust thing, totally different. It's a health thing that he had, as at least that's what the story seems to be at this moment. I know we still are waiting for more details, but it seems like it was a health thing. So, you say there's certain places that are not safe, that I believe, but I don't. Universal, I do feel safe.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that too. When I was a little kid, my dad had a huge fear of carnivals, which is kind of why we would always go to Disney, because he felt safer, in a larger theme park like that. But I think that his concept was that roller coaster that you're riding, that's at your local carnival, was folded up and on a semi truck 12 hours ago. Like, that's a lot more scary than these things that are always under a lot of scrutiny for safety and all those, the checks that they do on a regular basis. So, anyway, let's go on to the next topic, which is obviously it's going to be a little bit more a lighter conversation, which is somebody came in and stole some money from Paddlefish, Danny Ocean style. This is, I think that's what you said, right, Charlie? As you said, it was like a heist. It says the Disney World waterfront restaurant was robbed of $20,000 by a thief who snuck in wearing scuba gear. And you look at this thing, and it looks like Gru pulled off this this thing. Yeah. Charlie, I think when you and I first started talking about it, you hadn't heard about it yet, and then you were like, "Oh no, I can't wait to talk about this one."
Yeah, as with most of the best theme park news, I heard about it first from Park Adventurers Club, because it's the best source for news, and don't forget it. But really, this is one of the coolest stories. He swam up, stole a bunch of money, and he didn't even, he just told everybody. He walked in looking like that and told everybody, go wait in the corner while he took everything. I read one place where they said they were tied up, and then the later story said, no, they weren't. They were just told to stand in the corner and close their eyes. And when a guy dressed like that comes up out of the water and says, go stand in the corner and close your eyes, you do what you're told. And I completely get it. This is one of my favorite theme park stories. This is fantastic. I could talk about this for an entire podcast.
And it happened on September 15th. It's a varied report between $10,000 and $20,000 cash, but honestly, he just crushed it. I mean, and to my knowledge, has not been caught at this point. But I say he, and I'm sorry to just put that out there, Andy, because I know it could have been anyone. It could have been anyone. Literally.
I was thinking, I counted it. It was around 13, but
Well, then share some.
After the stream, we'll talk.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, this is again, somebody I think in chat said that that they were just here to talk about this one. But yeah, it's been a very weird, interesting theme park week as far as news goes. So I definitely wanted to break that one out, and we'll follow that story as well and see if the culprit gets caught or strikes again. It worked once. And there are a lot of on the water restaurants. I think Paddlefish is probably the easiest one, but I think you could probably swim up to, I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas, but Rainforest feels like it's on the water there. Just putting that out there. This one is a little bit more tame of a story based on what we've talked about so far. But this week they announced the Moonlight Magic opportunities for people who are Disney Vacation Club. And I assume that out of this panel, I'm the only one who is a Disney Vacation Club member, probably. And only probably because then you guys heard the words timeshare and ran, but it's vacation membership. It's vacation membership. Just remember that. But Moonlight Magic is one of those things that I really love about DVC. The problem that I have with it is that it's very hard to get. There are a lot of hoops you need to jump through. You actually have to register to try to get one of these nights. And basically they're like a hard ticketed event without paying. You're kind of paying because you're paying dues to get into the
Disney you're paying a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's just like that annual pass holder magnet that's free. It's one of those things that that you really, it's baked into the price, and you better get it. So with Moonlight Magic, you actually have to have already booked a room with points at a Disney resort. And then you sign up for the event, and they're after-hours events, just like a hard-ticket event. You get a smaller crowd in the park. You get the free ice cream treats and goodies that are happening there. But I've done one of these at Typhoon Lagoon, and I've done one of these, I think, at Animal Kingdom. So the other thing about this is they're limited to one per person now. I don't think that was the case when they originally launched it, right? I see Annie's face is like questioning that one.
I don't think
so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, the rules on this one said it's you can do one per year. So there's Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, California Adventure, Epcot, and Typhoon Lagoon. So there's not one at Magic Kingdom, and it doesn't look like there's one at Disneyland Park. So, but it said you can do one, and it said it's okay if you did one in 2025, you can do one in 2026. I'm like thinking, oh, okay, well, that's thoughtful of you that we get to do
That
one.
sounds terrible.
Not every other year.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds awful. I feel like that's kind of that's awful. It sounds like a ripoff to me. Like, oh, I mean, this DVC is a big deal. It's expensive. Yeah. It's supposed to give you a lot of perks, right? And I feel like for them to limit you like that. And I mean, if that's always been the way, I wouldn't know, but I've been to one of the events and someone took me, but I know that they invited me to more events that I didn't go to because I had to work. But I thought didn't seem like they were limited on how many events they could go to that year. So that's just from my experience. But I went to one and they were really cool. But I feel like you guys deserve to be able to go to all of them if you can.
Right? I think
Send
the problem
a message.
is,
tell them. That's what
honestly, I think the problem is that there are just kind of like the D23 Gold members. There's too many. And so when you have a D23 Gold event, they go in a millisecond, and the same thing with these. So I like it only if it allows everybody to be able to go to one, as opposed to somebody with fast fingers or a better internet connection than me who's able to get, one for each of them. Also, I only have a certain amount of points, so I don't think I can book for all of these events anyway. So I would love to do one out in California, though. I think that would be a lot of fun. And if I didn't have to use points, I would just crash with Charlie.
And that's always open. It's always open.
You delay. I assume it was just the delay and not just the pure shock of me inviting myself that.
No, I didn't hear any delay. I started talking before you finished on my end.
Well, bless you, sir. I appreciate you. Well, I'll tell you what. When you come out here, our next topic is Dollywood. Have either of you guys been to Dollywood at all ever?
No.
No, but I heard it's a good place.
It is. It was voted America's favorite park. Over Disney and Universal. Just saying. When I lived in Nashville. What'd you say?
Voted by who? I'm sorry. Dollywood is, I'm sure Dolly great, but it's not holding the candle to Disneyland. That's just not going to happen.
Nope. Sorry. It's just a thing, buddy. It's just a thing. It's actual. It's fact. Google it. It's on Wikipedia, and then it's real if it's on Wikipedia. No, but Dollywood is a beautiful park. It's in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. I lived in Nashville for a little while and thought, I'll go all the time because I'll be right there, because it feels like it's something that should be part of Nashville, but it's not. It's in right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, more central, and it is quite a journey. I think it's about 3 hours from Nashville to get there. But it's a great park. I held a season pass for a year. You're welcome. And it's got a lot of cool coasters, but they just announced this week that there is a new attraction coming in 2026, and it is called Night Flight Expedition. And so it is kind of touted as 4 experiences in one attraction. It's a roller coaster that takes you to new heights, and it's a whitewater rafting, and then like you careen across a lake. And I feel like there's only 3, but they're making it sound like there are 4. But it's a roller coaster moving boat that goes into the water, down whitewater rapids, and then there's a point where it gets like picked up and moved onto a track, and you ride through like a roller coaster. Now there is one like this outdoors in France. It's called, like, I think the Bermuda Triangle. And then this one is actually going to be indoors. They're making a show building, and it's 44,000 square feet. Charlie, I don't think 44,000 square feet is big enough, because I feel like the Monsters coaster that's coming to to Florida is like 100,000 square feet or something like that.
Well, yeah, I think this is, and they're saying it's first in the world, but and like when I heard about this at first, it reminded me of Journey to Atlantis, which is in SeaWorld. In SeaWorld California, it's like just an absolute pared down lame version of that ride. But then you see what Orlando got, and they got the proper version. It's got dark ride elements, it's a coaster, it's got a drop, like it's got a huge drop. It's got a little float through lagoon and everything. So I feel like it's probably the same. Like, it's not a rapid style ride, it's more like Pirates, where it's kind of, along a little flume, rather than, Grizzly River Run or like that. That's like an open track. But it seems very similar to that. And so if it is, only little bits of it are inside. Like, it floats in, does the show scene, and then floats out, or roller coasters out. There's one with, like, Journey to Atlantis specifically has an elevator. It like picks it up and everything. It just seems like, for saying 4 ride types and the first in the world, I don't count 4, and I don't think this is first in the world to do dark ride elements, float through attraction, water ride, and also coaster. Like, that's been done before. They did that in the early 2000s, late 90s with Journey to Atlantis. So that's been around a long time.
Well, again, just like the Dollywood thing, I believe everything I read on the internet. But this is the one that's in France that they said that they rode and were bought into this Mission Bermuda thing. So that one honestly looks pretty cool. But Annie,
Yeah.
the thing I wanted to hit you about on this one is there's a rumor that Epic was considering, and I know you've heard this, a Creature from the Black Lagoon attraction. Would this not be a perfect vehicle for the Creature from the Black Lagoon?
I think there was something I saw that looked like it was like water, and not like it could go in and out of the water. Like, so it sounds like, I mean, when you describe this thing, I'm thinking, yeah, that could kind of work for this. Now, Charlie, are you talking about SeaWorld Orlando? The ride at SeaWorld Orlando is like what?
Yeah.
I've never been on it. I've never been on it, and I used to work at SeaWorld. I went to SeaWorld today.
Oh, really?
I've never been on this. And so now I'm like,
it's one of those things, like, there was such pomp and circumstance when it opened here in Southern. We have one in San Diego. There was such pomp and circumstance when they opened it, and you went on, and it was just like, even, I think I was maybe 8 when it opened, something like that. And I went on, and I was so excited. You do the drop right away, and it's so cool. And then you go up, like, you do all these little, there's like an elevator, it takes you up, and they're like, you have to battle for the soul of Atlantis to save us. And it puts you outside, and 3 little water cannons go off, pup, pup, pup. And then, I can see the load station from here. And it's like, you saved Atlantis, get out. And that was it. And I remember, because that was the first big ride that SeaWorld had. It was like, little kiddie play areas and stuff, and, Shamu show, all that kind of thing. But it wasn't anything like rides. This was the first ride, and it had like a 4 or 5 hour wait time when it opened. And we went down there opening summer. I was so excited, and it was so lame. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I saw what Orlando got. So, like, even if it's not great, even if nobody in Orlando cares about it, it's still more than I got. Well, cheated. I feel cheated, because it just was the one in Orlando. It's worth it. In California, it's an absolute waste of time. It's just like the lamest attraction I've ever seen. But Orlando got show scenes. Orlando got fire effects, like all this cool stuff. It's a dark ride that is a coaster that's also a log flume. Like, whoa, so cool.
Whoa. So wait a minute. If this is the thing, and I pulled something up here, if this is the thing you're talking about, are you talking about this?
That's what,
Yes.
That's
So I
not
don't
the
believe
same
him.
thing. That's
I
not
don't
the same
believe
That's
him.
thing.
exactly the same thing.
That reminds me
That's
of Escape
exactly the
from
same thing.
Pompeii. Escape from Pompeii at
Splash
Busch
Mountain.
Gardens. No, even like Escape from Pompeii at Busch Gardens, you get into a big boat, you go around, you go up, you go through what feels like some sort of a treasure room, and then they drop you down into a huge splash, and they're like, "Get out."
No, there's a coaster like they for when you go up like you go up the first one, it's an actual lift hill, and that takes you down the drop. And then you go back into the building and they take you up an elevator. And when the ride here first opened, they had like whales talking to you and stuff, and they're like, "You're the saviors of Atlantis." And they lift you up, and then you do this whole roller coaster experience and splash down into the water. And then your battle for Atlantis is three little puff cannons, and that's it. And Florida got like all of it. They have like Medusa shows up or somebody shows up at one point, and like her face is it's like a projection effect, and they have a fire thing coming out from one side. Like Florida got the coolest version. We got absolutely cheated. So if you've never been on this one, go back to SeaWorld, Annie. Go on it and then report back next week and tell us that this is what Dollywood is getting, because that's absolutely what it is.
I think that what they're getting is bigger. However, this again, the one that they're telling us it's based on this Mission Bermuda. This is them
Yeah.
raising you up out of the water
Yeah.
to the. But look how vast that is. You can't tell me you can fit all of that in a 44,000 square foot building, like show building. That's not going to fit.
That's just a show building. That's a lot of it's going to be outside, I'm sure. I'm sure the footprint of the overall attraction is going to be closer to, probably 95,000
I
for the
don't know
overall
that that's
attraction.
true because at I watched the 13-minute presentation they did. Unfortunately, Dolly couldn't make it because she was
Mhm.
very personal. She shared a video that said that she had a kidney stone which turned into an infection, so she couldn't come. And I'm like, just Dolly's
Gross.
just putting it out there. But
Yeah.
at that presentation they said because this is the Smoky Mountains and because the weather goes from like sweltering hot to freezing cold, in the off season, that it's an indoor attraction, and we're excited about that. So I don't know that it does. I agree with you. It probably should the same way
Mhm.
like that. Like say Tron goes into a show building and then it comes out and then goes back in. Maybe that would
Yeah.
be a thing. I hope that that's the case because I would love to see this. It's a 5-minute attraction. The one in Paris that it's based off of is a 4-minute attraction. So what they're saying, I think, is that because of it's going to be all indoors, which again doesn't sound like you could have a 5-minute attraction in that kind of a space, but because it's all going to be indoors, that it'll be different and the first of its kind in the world. So and it's supposed to be
Mm.
like you're going through the Smoky Mountains trying to like find bioluminescence. So it's basically Atlantis meets Avatar is what I'm guessing here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited about this. It actually just in the same vein of Universal. And we talk about this with Disney all the time. That Disney talks about something 5 years before it's ready. They haven't even touched like a piece of dirt yet, and they're talking about it. And while we always want more information about things from Disney, when they do that, then more often than not, we're disappointed because the concept art changes or the project is shelved or Play Pavilion or Cherry Tree Lane or Main Street Theater or New Tomorrowland, da-da-da-da-da-da. So, I mean,
Mhm.
we get our hearts broken over and over again. But Universal, I always make this about Velocicoaster, is that they're like, what roller coaster? We don't know what you're talking about. And then it's like, oh, that? Yeah, that's going to be ready in 3 days. Like, so they start building the thing before they really tell you. And the same thing happened here
Mhm.
is they've started creating the show building out in Dollywood, and they were like apparently like to their like pride sharing misinformation about what it could possibly be that they were building to social media so that people would be very confused. And then when they rolled it out, now it's coming in spring, so we don't have all that long to wait. It should be open in March of 2026, so I can't wait. Let's all of us just get together and we'll go ride it, and then we can go, Charlie,
Oh yeah.
that's not the same thing as Atlantis or like, okay, you're right. Yeah, we'll get it all figured out by that point. Anyway, let me move on and let's talk about our last old piece of old business for the week. And the last piece of old business is that they announced the 2025 Candlelight processional narrators, star-studded, according to Disney. They're using the words star-studded lineup, and honestly, maybe pretty well deserved on this case because there are some new faces here. Constance Wu, who was in Crazy Rich Asians, and also what was the half-hour sitcom Fresh Off the Boat. So she was in those. Jennifer Garner is there. Leslie Uggams. Henry Winkler. I love that. I love that Henry Winkler is famously Jewish, and he is going to be reading the Christmas story. That's awesome. I would love to see
were
the
there.
Fonz. Yeah.
Jesus was also Jewish. Let's not start throwing some hate here.
No. But I'm so excited to see the Fonz. Like, I want to be there for that one. I'm like that old that this is Fonzie for me. Lauren Daigle is there. Brie Larson is there. And then also Shirley Ralph from Abbott Elementary. So, and then some that we've seen before, like Gary Sinise and Brendan Fraser, Marley Matlin, and Ralph Macchio, and Jordan Fisher. But noticeably missing here is Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh.
I feel like he's like become a staple. Are they what?
Are there any dates that are there any dates that are missing from that lineup that maybe they're gonna fill it in, or is this like the full every day? I didn't really look at the dates. I just looked at the people.
Yeah,
No?
it's booked. This is every single date, which is also rare for them because don't they normally have like some TBDs when all this launches? I feel like.
Yeah.
Any of these that pop out at you that you're excited about, Annie, or are you too upset that John Stamos isn't coming?
I honestly looked at that list and I was like, oh, Fonzie. And then I was like, no, that's not. And then I was like, oh, Fonzie! He really was on there. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at Louis Fonzie or whoever. I was like reading the names and I was like, oh, Fonzie. And then I know. I thought I was funny.
I've seen this 4 times, and I know that Charlie's gonna like roll up his sleeves, go, well, at Disneyland, but these are at Epcot, and I've seen it 4 times, and it's been the most random 4 people. Ming Na was one of them. Cal Ripken Jr., like the Iron Man baseball player, and then Joe Morton, who was on Scandal. He was her dad on Scandal, and he's been in a bunch of other stuff, including he was in the Justice League movie. And then Simi Liu from Shang-Chi. Those are the 4 I've seen. And so I've never seen John Stamos. I've never seen Neil Patrick Harris. Ronald in chat was saying Neil had a scheduling conflict. I assume he called Ronald and told him that and said, hey, Ronald, could you just let him know if they talk about me on Park Adventures Club, let him know that I had a schedule. I'm sure it's printed somewhere. But Charlie, thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, I've actually never seen Candlelight Processional because we only do it for like a weekend in Disneyland. And it's the worst weekend to be there. And I've had to be in the parks many times on processional weekend. And it's always just a nightmare because the way in and the way out is packed. And people show up at like 4 a.m. and come through the gate. So Candlelight here is a very different beast than Candlelight in Florida. It's a very nice time in Florida. And out here, it's a nuisance for 90% of people. And then there's 10% of people who will absolutely like die on that hill. They love Candlelight so much, so it's not as universally loved here. And like I've never seen it. I know a lot of people who have been in it from being a cast member and stuff. People were fighting over getting slots, but like it doesn't have the same reverence here, I think.
Well, the thing that strikes me about the one in, just like you just said, and it never really occurred to me, is the one in Disneyland happens not in DCA, but in the main park, which is Disneyland Park, and it happens at the Main Street station. And you're right, like it's basically blocking the entrance and exit to the park where they put it, which I'm sure has a lot of grandeur on that main stage. It seems like maybe the castle might have been a good place to put that. I'm just throwing that out there. But in Epcot,
Or,
it's in the very back
Encino,
of the
like
park.
somewhere else. Take it away. Just go
Encino.
put it. So we have a hotel. We can go there. We have lots of lovely parking lots. You can build a stage, do it all there. Don't bother the rest of us who aren't here to
Oh,
camp out for 2 days.
oh.
Well, Merry freaking Christmas, Charlie. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Bah
Okay.
humbug.
All right. Well, let's put an end to old business, and thank you guys for talking about that stuff. It was a real grab bag this week. I mean, from Dollywood to scuba diving, thieves to all across the board.
Hmm.
So thank you guys for bearing with us on that. But the reason we have convened tonight is to talk about Halloween Horror Nights 2025. And we're talking about both coasts because Annie and I both have been not together, but we both went to the one East Coast. I don't think Annie, did you go to the West Coast this year or no? So not
No,
yet
not
to
this
the
year.
West Coast, but Charlie's got us covered on the West Coast because he went media style and
Hmm.
just tore it up. So I'm excited for us to talk about that. The first thing I want to ask you guys is just to kind of set the bar. And I'll start with you, Charlie, and then we'll go to Annie. What is the best in your entire theme park history? What is the best haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights that you've ever seen, either coast? Charlie,
Mm.
what's the best one?
So the best one at Universal Halloween Horror Nights is it's got to be either Eternal Bloodlines from last year. No, that's what it is. That's at Universal. That's the best house I think they've ever done. Was Eternal Bloodlines. It was a great story. There were a lot of cool kills and good effects. The music by Slash was a character. Like it was so forward and so noticeable. And yeah, I think I would have said Scarecrow up until this year, and I'm sure we'll get to that. Um, but like I think the best overall would be Eternal Bloodlines from last year, the way we did it in California, not the Florida version.
Gotcha. All right, Annie, same question.
You know, I got three that I think are the best. If you ask me my favorite, it's going to be Asylum in Wonderland, which was the year that was the Alice in Wonderland themed, but you wore the 3D glasses through the house and you walked over this bridge tunnel thing that made you feel like you were spinning. They've done those in other houses, but with the 3D glasses, and everything was neon. It was such a cool house. So that's always going to be my favorite. But I think for like best house that I've been through, and I know it's unfortunate they're both IPs, but Alien versus Predator in 2014, that house was
Mm,
incredible. The predators were huge. The alien puppets were like popping out, and at the end, you had to get down and crawl out of the house. And then my third one would probably be The Shining. The Shining house was great.
I,
I can't pick one. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I feel like a lot of times you have that as like your barometer when you go into a new year, like we are here, is that you're like, well, it's not as good as dot, dot, dot. For me, the thing that sold me in was 2019's Ghostbusters house because I'm an old guy and Ghostbusters was like my thing when I was a kid. I loved that movie. And so like that house brought that to life for me in such a way. And at that point I realized why HHN was such a cool thing. Because until that, I was a Mickey's Not So Scary for life guy. And when I went to that event, saw the production value of this, because you think haunted house, you think the one around the corner from you that they do, or next to the corn maze at around Halloween every year, but this is not that. This is
mhm.
such a high level of production because it's a movie company that's making movie sets every year, new ones. Now sometimes they recycle pieces, as I'm sure Charlie will be able to point at everything that's been recycled through the years, but I would say that it's amazing the production value that they put together in these. And walking through one of my all-time favorite movies was just insane to do. And then in sequential years, my kids have had that opportunity to live the things they love. My daughter is a huge Stranger Things fan. And when she was like going through like Eddie's trailer, it was just like, this was everything for her. And then the same thing with my son this year and Five Nights at Freddy's. He and his girlfriend just study the heck out of the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, the games, the movie, the untold stories of it. And so yeah, it's really neat when your favorite comes to life. Now that said, Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando has become, they split it down the middle. They have 5 IP houses and 5 original houses. I feel like there's not as many originals, and we'll talk about that with Universal in Hollywood. But the big 3, I feel like this year were these 3, and they show them on each of these websites, which is Fallout from not from the game, but from the and it has nods to the game, but it's more from the TV series on Prime that was such a huge hit. And then the Five Nights at Freddy's, again, not much from the game, more based on the film with Josh Hutcherson. And then Terrifier, which I actually made myself watch all 3 of those Terrifier movies, but it really plussed out that experience for me when I got to see those houses. So both coasts have those. Out of those 3, Annie, what was your favorite out of those 3? I'm only asking those 3, not the other 7.
Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's, easy.
Now,
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Charlie's nodding his head because I know you were not a fan of Fallout.
Are you talking to me or Annie?
Well, she nodded her head no, she wasn't a fan, but I feel like I know you, Charlie.
Yeah. I liked Fallout as a series, and as I was watching the series, I watched it like a week before this opened, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a set, and they're going to use the zombie cart for this, and they're going to do you know, after so many years of doing this, you can kind of watch a property and be like, this is what they're going to pull out of it, you know, and you're usually, 75% there because it's just logical of how we're going to get there. I feel like there was a lot left on the table with Fallout. It was like lame. It was just lame. It wasn't a great house. It didn't do justice to the property, either the game or the TV show. It just felt kind of slapdash and thrown together. Now, I haven't seen what Florida has done because this is like you were mentioning Ghostbusters. We had Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a couple of years ago, and I was like, this was awful. This was super lame. And then I see what they did in Florida, and it was amazing. Everyone's saying it's the best house for a reason, because in Florida, Frozen Empire was great. Out here, it was just kind of the leftovers. So I'm hoping that Florida's Fallout was at least better than ours, but I haven't watched the videos of, I don't know, like there was so much potential. There's so much you can do. It was surprisingly a horror show. I never thought about the games in that way, but the show was a horror show. So it really had a lot of potential to be great. And they just kind of dropped the ball, I think. I think this is one of the biggest things where it's like you had everything lined up and you could have gone really far with it, and you just dropped it. Whereas Stranger Things, I didn't know how it was going to work, and it ended up being great. This one, I kind of thought it was going to be so much better. There was so much they could have done, and they just didn't capitalize on it properly this year.
Yeah. Well, and before I go to you, Annie, the last year's was The Last of Us, where they did, but instead of doing the TV show, the big HBO series, they went with the game instead. Which, the people that I went with, they were excited about that because they played the game. For me, I was like, I just studied up and watched the show. Like, show me Pedro Pascal. Show me, I want to see that. And instead they did the video games, which what people loved. But I mean, I feel like you should have done that. So when we heard about Fallout, I was like, are we talking about the show? Or are we talking about, are we going to see like Walton Goggins? Or are we going to see like, something more from the game? And I feel like they did the right thing by going with the mainstream IP. Annie, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think, it's easier for people that don't play games or don't have time to play games to watch shows. So to understand what's happening, it's easier for them probably to catch up by watching a movie or a show rather than playing a game. So maybe that was the case here. But everyone has told me that Fallout was a million times better in Hollywood, and everyone says it is the worst house here this year.
Oh
So
yeah.
I hate to break it to you, Charlie, but you got the better one, and you hated it still.
But that's so sad. This is the better one?
And
Like,
everyone has
oh,
been looking
come
forward to
on.
this. I felt bad. My friends went through it, and everyone was kind of like, it wasn't good. Like, that was the house they were most hyped for, and they were like,
Me
it was
too.
bad. And
Yeah.
people said it wasn't even like a haunted like thing. Like, it wasn't scary. It was like walking through and seeing the characters, like almost like a meet and greet, more
Yeah.
like you walk by and see the
Yeah.
characters rather than anything good. And I've not seen the show, or my ex used to play the game, so I knew a little bit about the game, but not the show, of course. So
It's worth a
I didn't know
watch.
what was
It's worth a
happening.
watch.
I didn't know what was
You should
happening. I feel
definitely
like I
see the
should.
show.
Yeah, before the
Yeah,
season's over,
it's
so I can
but it's
understand.
you know what it was is like I know these guys, everyone who worked on this is a professional haunt designer. And I feel like you said, it's a meet and greet. This wasn't a good haunt. Like even if you're not going to capitalize on the IP, the hides weren't good. It was showing off this god awful mask, just a terrible mask for the ghoul. And they showed it off where it's like that's literally the only thing. He just walks out. He's standing in front of you when you enter the room to deliver the line of dialogue, and then you go away, and like that's it. That it was bad. It was a poor haunt design. Yeah, like come on, look at that. Someone stapled old crapper beef jerky to someone's face, and they were like, "Ah, it's good." Like
Can he even
it was a
see?
bad no, and like it was a bad mask. It was a bad experience. There were no good haunts. There were no good kills. They lost so much, and like the main character of the series only showed up once, which is fine if you're like, all right, we're going to put the audience in the role of the character, fine. But then she showed up once, and it like there was no payoff. There was nothing. It was such a waste.
See,
I'm
that was
so
different though,
disappointed in
because
this.
I saw Lucy at least 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 times, right? Annie, like
In
when,
Florida?
yeah, in Florida. Lucy's
I
the one in the girl with the black hair. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
when she jumped out a few times, I know I at least saw her 3 times. But the ghoul that we had was better than this one, Charlie. However, the mask, the rubber was on the outside, like you know how like a rubber mask has that bottom part. The
Hmm.
rubber was on the outside over top of his shirt. And I wanted to go and like
Oh,
tap on his shoulder and go, dude, no, don't do that. I mean, but
that's
in the face,
lazy.
he looked much more like the ghoul than the one we just saw from yours. And so
Yeah.
I'm based on what I've seen, I almost think that we had the better one with the Fallout house. It was, but I don't know. So I think we
Yeah.
all agree Fallout was probably a disappointment. It wasn't the worst house, but it was probably a disappointment.
You know,
might have
I
been the
think it was the
worst.
worst house only because I wanted it to be good so bad, and like seeing something you want be terrible. Like it was The Force Awakens. I had such hopes, and I was just betrayed.
Oh
That's
Lord,
what
we're
it
gonna have to have
was.
a Force Awakens conversation, Charlie, right after Tron. We'll talk Tron first, and then we'll talk Force
Seriously.
Awakens. Yeah, no, but honestly though, like when there were a couple things when we did. Let's go back to Five Nights first. And again, there were, I think we decided what, Charlie, there were like 8 houses plus the tram tour in,
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
in
no.
in,
Eight? Was it eight?
It's 8.
in California.
I think
Yeah,
it's
I
8.
sent you the map. It's I got it here. Hold on.
So Fallout, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Terrifier were on both coasts. So was the Wyatt, the wrestling
It's
one,
six.
the Wyatt Six and Jason. So those 5 were on both coasts. And then you guys
Yeah.
also had Poltergeist, which was 6, Scarecrow was 7, Monstrose was 8, and then the tram tour. So you had 8
And then
houses
the
plus the
tram, yeah.
tram tour. Right, and then
Okay.
we had on the East Coast we had 10 houses, so the same 5 main IPs, minus the Poltergeist one, and then 5 original houses. Um,
Yeah.
so again, as we're going through Fallout, I think in our group, I think they thought it was like in the top 5, but not not high up in the top 5. But then the Five Nights at Freddy's house, in my opinion, was the best one too, because we talked about that. But so in the one on the East Coast, and I'm sorry if there's spoilers on this, guys, but like if you know the movie, Foxy does this like dum 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 dum, like this weird like humming like thing, and so you hear Foxy coming. Foxy was supposed to come down at you and was broken, like it doesn't move. But the one in California moves, and because of the footage that Charlie got, I was able to see it moving. I was like, okay, this is better. However, if I can show a little bit of the opening, I think you guys got the raw end of the deal on the opening, because as you're walking into the house,
budget cut.
Yeah, so you walk down the hallway here, and I won't show all of that, but when you turn the corner in the one in Orlando, you see all 3 animatronics on the stage. And this one, you turn the corner,
they do.
You just see 1 and 2 shadows.
They do. Yeah, we get all 3, and then the curtains open up. I just wasn't there for that. I saw that from my buddy who went through, and he was like, "This was great," and I was like, "What the hell? I missed this." So I got Freddy.
Okay.
But like, I just thought it was 1, and we moved through, and I took my photos and I moved on. It was just one of those timing things where the curtains do open, so we do get all 3 of them. And I didn't know that, because I would have hung out, I would have stayed. I just thought it was a shadow projection, and that was it.
That's what I thought when I saw your footage too. Okay, all right, that's better then. But honestly, these animatronics were amazing.
Yeah.
And what also I love about usually the in all of these haunted houses is how they cast them. That the actors, especially with the IP houses, usually look like the actor is like so close to them from the movie that you can't even believe it. This one, this does not look like Josh Hutcherson in the least. I don't even know what they were thinking there. But also, I don't know. It just feels like, you know, some of the hallways and things. And yes, granted that you were walking through and they were lit. I feel like the production value is better in Florida, which can't make sense, right? Because in California, you should have the best.
Yes and no, because in California, we just had to build an entire second park of haunts. We had Horrors Unleashed out here in Nevada. So like, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that everybody, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was lame, but
I know.
You know, you're splitting attention. Oh yeah, absolutely lame. But they're splitting attention. So they're pulling people to Nevada where we don't have the full team. I think that's why we had so much repeat this year, where we don't hardly ever have any repeats. Like, that's kind of the social contract that we've made, is like, I'm willing to accept that this is paint on a wall instead of a full built set, because you started building this in like July. That's our social contract. I'm okay with that, because it's new every year. But if you're going to start repeating stuff and just pull it out of the closet and throw it in the parking lot for me, we're going to have another conversation about this ticket price and what we're seeing.
Yeah, Annie has thoughts.
Yeah,
I have a whole conspiracy theory here.
And I would love to hear it.
I mean, I'll try to keep it short.
Let me grab my popcorn. Hang on.
All right. So here's the strategy, guys. We are going to start watering down. This is me if I worked at Universal, of course. Here's the strategy, guys. We're going to start watering down HHN just slightly every year a bit and make it a little more family friendly. The IPs are going to appeal to a wider generation, maybe younger crowds. And then, you know what? We're going to put Five Nights at Freddy's and Fallout and stuff the kids know. But you know how we're going to get them here? We're going to sell $20 lanyards. The Deathly Afraid lanyards, so that parents will bring them in here to get them in the house. So now we're making $20 each. But guess what? You know, all those complaints from people saying there's too many kids here. I don't like this. There's so many children, teenagers running around. They have Vegas to go to now. Guess what? Every response back to every complaint is, guess what? Horror Unleashed is out in Vegas, coming soon to Chicago. You don't want to be around kids. You don't want to be around the children and all that and the Deathly Afraid lanyards. We got the perfect place for you. Go out there. And that's that's my conspiracy.
I love that conspiracy theory, but let me pause on this and say that if you guys are with us tonight, thank you guys. Please, again, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. But I want to say that Annie and I did a review of like the concept of HHN on this channel earlier this year, like back when they started selling tickets and things. So if you have questions about like the ticket prices and the tiers and the express pass and all that kind of stuff, go back and watch that one. We're really just talking about what actually happened this year and not the operational part of the semantics. However, you brought up that stupid necklace situation, which I think is the silliest thing, to pay $90 to be scared and then pay $20 not to be. I mean, and it's not even it's only in scare zones, and they had less scare zones this year, right? Like you can't wear that blinking light through the house because it's like a light.
Wait, do you guys have one for real?
Yeah,
not us, but yeah,
it's Universal
at Orlando. Yeah.
I know it's at other parks. What?
$20.
$20. I broke that news, and I screenshot so many people that were calling me names saying that I made that up. Universal would never. And then the next day it was like, boom, here it is, guys. I told you. So, and I too.
Way.
If anybody had told me that was coming, I would have called him a liar too. So when I knew for a fact it was coming, I was like, what?
They came out with that here at Knott's Scary Farm. They call it the No Boo necklace. And every year I go to their announcement event, their Nightmares Revealed event, and they scream boo. And he's the guy who's up there who's like, no, you're not allowed to. It's no boo. And like that was the first time I had heard of it, but it took off, and they've been doing it year over year. I didn't know it was leaching out to others. It's like a virus. Get rid of that.
Yeah,
if you can't handle
I've outed somebody for stealing Annie's picture here, but because it says, here's a first look by Adventuring with Annie of the new Deathly Afraid necklace. So they give you some credit here in it. Yeah, they give you some credit here for it. But yeah, so just so you don't think we're lying, Charlie, yeah, it's a real thing. And, you know, the people I went with were like, if anybody in our group, if anybody buys one of those, you are forbidden from hanging out with us ever again.
Oh,
because,
yeah, I don't want to be seen with someone wearing that.
Counterproductive. It's like wearing a poncho on a flume ride. Like it's like you ride it to get wet, but then you like are all like worked up because you're going to get wet. It's the same thing here. You're going.
Here's the thing, though.
You do that,
Annie and I talked about this. We each had to do Jurassic Park in January. I justify the poncho.
Okay,
I remember that. Fair. I mean, maybe your January is different than my January, but still.
With John.
Oh, that was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
anyway,
I remember. We did it like 4 times. Yeah.
So Annie, when you and I were talking about HHN, we were talking about the pricing structure and the frequent fear and the RIP tours and all that kind of stuff. This wasn't a thing then. And when it broke and you had it out there, I was like, that's not a thing. Like someone else, like I said, someone in our group told me about that, and I was like, that can't be. Why would you pay $20 not to get scared? There are some videos of I think I saw on TikTok of a girl wearing one and like basically shoving it in cast members, like the scare actors' faces, going, you can't get me. Like, but again, it's of no use in the house because it's a blinking light or whatever, so you can't wear it in the house. And so you only wear it through the scare zones, and there aren't as many scare zones this year, so it feels like a weird time to introduce it, but it is a thing that's out there.
I got a quick question, and I should know the answer to this. I should have probably looked this up, but now I'm thinking, is there a child price for HHN tickets, or is there just one price? Okay, because I was thinking like, it's the idea in my mind is basically you can take your kid to Five Nights at Freddy's. They're going to wear this $20 lanyard and no one is going to like really mess with them. Take them to Five Nights at Freddy's, go through the house and go home. We got your money. So, well, I mean,
I get it from a really corporate point of view.
I mean, I just don't look at it like people that are really going to the event are buying this to wear it around all night long. It just feels like either that or you can't get a babysitter. It's $20. We'll put this on your kid. It's cheaper than a babysitter. Take your kid with you. Sorry.
No. As a father of 2 boys, if you're going to be a little bitch and you can't handle Halloween Horror Nights, you're staying home. That's what it is. Eventually, you'll be 10 and you'll be terrified, and I'll hold you while you have nightmares and everything. But like, you got to get used to it if you're going to make it in this family. You got to get used to it. This is like, understand that this is a mask. This is a Cal State Fullerton kid in a mask. Take a breath and get through it. And if you can't, then you don't get to go, you know?
You know what's so funny about that to me is that I had a friend who went to Disney and he said, I can't believe I just waited 2 hours in line for my kid to meet some college student dressed like Rapunzel. So the
Yep.
fact that you're saying that, yeah, it sounds very similar. And also a conversation that
Yeah.
Charlie and I had about safety and Dollywood. And I said, some 12-year-old kid basically strapped me into the roller coaster. And no, it wasn't 12, but yeah. And then went, that's probably good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what are we doing? But back to like how this all works. Yeah, you saw it. I showed that it's one price, Annie. It's like 3 and up is one price. But I've got a better one for you, Annie. Not just, and we haven't talked, gosh, we have so much time. We haven't talked about the entertainment part of it yet, but I will say that I've seen some kids at Nightmare Fuel and the parents not knowing what they were taking their kid to. And I saw, the last time I saw it, mom looked at dad like, you're going to die. Like, I am going to kick your butt for bringing these kids to this thing, because the little boy's like, just like staring at whatever's happening with Nightmare Fuel, and just like that to me is worse than the scare part for some reason, which makes no sense. Like, like the human body should not be scarier than like Art the Clown. And yet, for some reason,
Yeah.
I feel like that's justifiable on that one. So let's share through this. So Fallout, we kind of gave it one of these. Five Nights at Freddy's, you're giving it this. Terrifier, I did the homework, guys. I don't know, Annie, did you watch the 3 movies? And Charlie
No.
said he didn't watch them. And I feel like it made a difference. Now, I hated every minute of it because they are the grossest, most disgusting B maybe level like horror films that I've ever seen. And yet I was then infatuated when we got to see Art the Clown in these houses, and he was so good. And it's just like I was totally bought in. And we actually got to, like, he walked around as well, so you can sort of meet Art the Clown carrying his little bag. Not knowing the IP though that way, Annie, like, your thoughts on Terrifier? Did you like that house?
No, I didn't even think it. I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was bad. It just existed. I actually thought I expected more. Like, I felt like this was, hyped up as the goriest thing we were going to see, and we've seen in forever at HHN. And I earlier when you asked me like my favorite houses over the years, it's funny that all of them were really, really long time ago. Nothing super recent. So I thought maybe Terrifier was like, okay, we're starting to get back to the old way of being like super scary events, bad smells, all that stuff. And I thought the wet path at the end, I felt like last year's Major Sweets puking kid was like worse than the wet path. Like, it just didn't do anything for me. Like, forgettable maybe. So that's why I don't know if before the season's over, if I watch these or try to suffer through watching these, if I'd go through and say, oh, now it means something.
See, again, for me, I feel like if I do the homework, I appreciate the house more. And but we'll talk about that when we get to the Wyatt 6. But let me go back to you on Terrifier, Charlie. What did you think of that one?
It was fine. I mean, I didn't see the films, but my buddy who has seen all the films prefaced me as we were in line, and he just said, Art the Clown is just a chaos gremlin. And I was like, cool. And that's pretty much all it was. Like, there's not a lot that I can see of, like, that I was missing out on, I think, by not seeing the films. Like, at one point backstage of the haunted house, and we're killing team members. So, like, that's not in the movie. I was able to follow this story even not having seen the films, and it was just, fun kills, creative kills, a lot of reused sets and props and stuff. And that's kind of been the theme this year is the recycling year of, like, I've seen this kill before, I've seen this dummy before. You're just doing the same thing, but instead of Blumhouse, now it's Art the Clown. So it's, I don't know if Art the Clown actually put anybody on a bandsaw the way they did for that, whatever the Blumhouse thing was, the body switching Blumhouse thing. But, like, they built it for that. They used it here. It still worked either way. They just added a water jet. It was fine.
I honestly, again, I feel like it followed the trilogy pretty closely. All three of the movies are kind of represented in it. I'm surprised it hasn't been a thing before this. I think it really works for Halloween Horror Nights. I just hated watching the movies, but afterwards really appreciated the house on a different level. And to me, it was like top five because of knowing how much it went, hand in hand with the movies. I love when you said, "Oh, it's just like this, like Chaos Gremlin." Got it. It reminds me of this show, and I've referenced this a million times. AP Bio with Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny. He was a bio teacher, and he's dating this girl, and she's like, "Hey, you want to come over and watch John Wick 2?" And he says, "Will I have missed anything if I haven't seen one?" She goes, "Do you know how guns work?"
Yeah.
And so that's kind of this thing. Chaos Gremlin. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm caught up. I'm ready to go. Let's get it. Jason Universe. Jason Universe is one of those where it's like a classic. Now, obviously, they tried to hodgepodge some things in the same way of Terrifier. I feel like if I had rewatched all the Jason movies or Friday the 13th movies, I probably would have appreciated more out of it. I know my son went and did some studying and was like, "Oh, that's Jason's mom's like shrine," and things like that. I'm like, it's just a guy in a hockey mask jumps out at you. That's all I need for it to be Jason. Annie, thoughts on that one?
Hmm.
Same. I remember Freddy versus Jason years ago. So I kind of thought, oh, okay, Jason again. But I loved it. I thought it was great. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be, it just was the best overall. And at least I think that was probably my favorite house this year is Jason. And
Nice.
just because good popping out of just the Jason everywhere and dark, and I don't know, I thought it was a really well done house.
Okay. Out in California, Charlie, did you like that one?
No, I kind of feel like this one just existed. I feel like Jason, Chucky, all those guys are kind of low-hanging
Michael
fruit
Myers.
of like, yeah, like we've done so many Halloweens here that we kind of had to go for Jason now just to pepper it in for the novelty. But we've also done so many Friday the 13th and Jason and stuff. And like this one wasn't even any one particular Jason movie. It was just the universe. So it was fine.
Made up.
Like, yeah, it's just non-committal, it's fine.
Yeah. No, I get you. All right. So what I was talking about with the horrors of the Wyatt Six, which was the WWE house, and I remember last year people going, "Oh, I think there's going to be a WWE house," and then this year it actually happened. I kept thinking, why? Like, I don't know WWE, so I was like, why does this need to be a thing that we have the WWE? There's a lot of other things that, like Demon Slayer, the anime, and some other things that I was like, oh, I'd love to see that, and it never happened. Or last year, Five Nights didn't happen, but it happened this year. And yet, when this came out, a lot of people in the group I was going with were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this!" And so I was like, "Tell me how I study for this." Like Last of Us, I'm not going to go if it's video game based only. I'm not going to play all of those games, but maybe I might try one or whatever. Like, how do I get in to a guy who is as old as I am and has never been into professional wrestling? How do I catch up? And there was a documentary on Peacock, thankfully, Peacock, Universal, it's all together, about Bray Wyatt, who was the kind of the visionary who sadly passed away a few years ago. Um, and so this was kind of like his brother helped to bring this vision to life, and this was maybe a conversation that he had been having with Universal back in the day of wanting to bring a haunted house in the same way that probably I didn't get it when The Weeknd was going to have a house, and that's one of my favorite houses, like that happened. So this one, I thought, okay, I watched the 2-hour documentary and I kind of got it. My kids did not. They're like, documentary and wrestling miss me with that, is basically what they said. So when I went in, I appreciated it. Like, there's this wheel, like a rocking chair with a lantern in it at the very end. And if you've watched the documentary or Bray Wyatt, that's moving. That's really moving. But if you didn't, you're like, huh. So I mean, I feel like that there is a level of like studying up that you should probably do when you're going to this. And like you guys both said, with Jason, okay, we get it. A guy in a hockey mask with a knife. That's Friday the 13th in a nutshell. I mean, you can learn more about it, but you don't need it. Chaos Gremlin Clown, that works. But I think with this one, you kind of needed to know where they were coming from. Otherwise, it didn't make as much sense. So, Charlie, your thoughts on this one, not having done the homework?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do the homework on this one. But like you were mentioning with houses in the past, And even with the Terrifier this year, I didn't do the homework on that, but I kind of got it. Like I was able to go into it raw. And I mean, any of the original non-IP houses, you can go into it fresh and still follow the story and take something out of it. This one in Hollywood was beautiful, but there was no story that I could pick up on, and I was looking for it. I didn't get any, like, it's not even references that I'm looking for. I just didn't get any story points whatsoever. It was just a bunch of people screaming. There was like one Cool Pepper's ghost effect, and that was it. There were no cool hides. There were no cool kills. You know, it was just kind of meh.
Well, and Doug in chat said that the Wyatt universe is ridiculously deep and emotionally charged. I think, again, if you had watched that documentary, you're walking basically through the mind of Bray Wyatt and like the things that he conjured up and his kind of career, because he changed the shape of the character and the direction that he was doing. And there's like a Pee-wee's Funhouse kind of a thing that's called like the Firefly Funhouse. Like that's the kind of stuff that you would just walk by and miss if you didn't know the story there. So I had a whole new appreciation for it. I'm so glad I did that. If you haven't gone to Halloween Horror Nights yet, I would recommend. It's a 2-hour documentary. I mean, like without commercials, at least 2 hours. So watch the whole thing. But he's a wrestling legacy who passed away way too young. Was very creative and brought there were people who were just shook when he passed, and I think that it is, I don't know, I appreciated it because of that. But Annie, before we move on, what were your thoughts on this one?
I'm with you.
I don't mean to bully you into like saying something nice about it. I mean, just tell me honestly how you felt.
No, honestly, I know that people that know what is going on and know the story and the history love the house.
Yeah.
I think if you watch the documentary, you will appreciate the house. But I also believe that a good house should appeal to people that don't even know the deep, like The Weeknd, that was perfect example. I was going to say, you didn't have to know some documentary about his life story to go through and be like, that was great. So I think that there can be an appreciation for the people that know, but I also think the regular guest should be able to walk through there and also be like, wow, that was good. And that's not happening.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
And that's, I think, having a homework assignment in order to enjoy 1/8 of this ticket price, is kind of a steep assignment, because I always say that about Marvel, is like, it's a lot of homework. You have to really watch everything, but like, this is even more. This isn't something that we'd naturally run across in the zeitgeist. Like, you have to seek out Peacock to find this documentary, and just like, in the same way, like the if you really research the Japanese shogunate in the Reform period, there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and you're only going to enjoy it if you're really up on your history of the shogunate. Then you can absolutely come to my history part. That's not going to attract a lot of people. And I think that's what this just feels like, way too niche. Even though there's a lot of people into wrestling, it feels like it doesn't have the broad appeal of like the Chaos Gremlin of like, he's just sawing somebody in half. You don't need to do any reading. He's just sawing somebody in half. And I was able to follow it without watching the movies.
I love that you forgot your homework and you're trying to filibuster your way out of it. Great. No, I'm just kidding. I honestly, I totally get where both of you are coming from.
That's the only way I got my degree.
Yeah. But because of that, those are the 5 big houses, right, that crossed over for both coasts. And then when on the East Coast, we had 5 that were original houses, they call them. And in the past, Annie, there's been a Monsters house, like a Universal Monsters house. I assume we missed that, and that's usually counted in IP. I assume we missed that because we have Epic Universe now, and they just decided not to do that. But I feel like the past 5 or 6 years I've gone, there's been a Universal Monsters something.
Yeah, and I think some people were disappointed, some people were happy, but I think because don't we have Monsters out in Vegas? I wondered if they just thought, okay, it's at Vegas.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing.
At the park.
Yep.
So
we got a Monsters Land on one side, we got a Vegas Monsters on the other, and so they just put Slash to work somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, Charlie, to your point about that, like getting explanation for a house, I feel like with the IP houses, sometimes I feel like you need like an Adventuring with Annie kind of like site to be able to go, okay, look, when you go into El Artista, here's the story. Because in a lot of cases, I feel like they don't
Hmm.
really tell you the story enough about the original houses that when you go in, you're like, Grave of Flesh. Okay, I go in. And like if I had had somebody tell me, like, oh, by the way, when you first go in that first room and you look up and you can see you're being buried, like I wouldn't have even looked up. And so then you go through
Yeah.
and you were talking about timing in Five Nights. I think that we were in between like a shift change with scare actors because like I walked almost completely through Grave of Flesh and was like, huh, like it was like the set design was great. It was very damp inside, but like it wasn't like I was like, what is the story here? I don't see any of it. That's the way you were talking about like the Wyatt Six house. That's the way I felt about the
Yeah.
originals. So I feel like the originals are risky, and I don't think that I've ever looked back and said an original house, except for what was the pier one,
Oh,
Annie?
Dead Man's Pier, or
Dead
yeah,
Man's
Dead Man's
Pier
Pier
Yeah.
was
was
Pierce Lake.
amazing, and so that one I would say like that's one of the only like original houses that stood out to me. Except this time El Artista, um, I feel like was a
Same guy.
beautiful. What's that?
Same guy as Dead Man's Pier,
Oh, is
or
it? Okay,
same.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, you walk into this, and it's what my son always calls um, outside inside, because you walk into the building, but it looks like you're outside somewhere. And so when you
Like
look
that.
at that, it
Hmm.
was beautiful on the outside. Some of the effects, I mean, Charlie, you talked about Pepper's Ghost in the Wyatt Six house. There were several Pepper's Ghost effects. There was a really cool mirror effect where you think the scare actor is like way down a hallway, and then they jump out and they're right next to you. There were like statues that come to life. That one was really well done, and I don't know that I needed a real story with that one. Grave of Flesh, I needed a story. So, like you were saying about homework, I need somebody like, and if you go on an RIP tour, the guides will do that for you. They will explain to you, hey, we're about to go in this house. Here's what the story is. Like, gather around. Let me tell you a quick ghost story, and now let's go see the ghosts. You
Hmm.
don't really get that necessarily if you're like standing in that 60-minute queue waiting to go in there. And I think because of that, these queues are a lot shorter. So because we don't have as many like originals out in California, I want to hit Annie first about like what did you have any of the originals that you thought stood out, and then we'll talk about the two that are in Cali.
I like that Hatchets and Chains is a full house that came out of Slaughter Cinema. I like that. I thought the Dolls one was great. Grave of Flesh was super forgettable. Like I think I totally missed everything in there too. They do slash did they do podcasts. Universal does them where they tell the story of the houses like the originals. But they like kind of promoted them last year when they did them, and I did not see them promote them at all this year. I don't even know they did them, but they used to do that. But if you can't get an RIP tour, that's how you could do your homework. But again, who wants to listen to hours and hours of things before you go? So
Well, that's exactly
just
what Charlie was saying about like you should be able to just go in and
yeah.
enjoy it. But I think probably more so for the IP houses you should, but the non-IP houses should explain themselves. I think so. Here's Hatchets and Chains. I loved the train screen effect. Like I don't always love screen effects, but the train screen effect was great there. Dolls Let's Play Dead had some screen effects in it. Grave of Flesh, Galkin Monsters of the North was I
Um,
think what?
yeah, I was gonna say that's a very popular one. I think that's one of the favorites this year from people.
Yeah, I
It was
I
good.
think El Artista Spanish Haunting out of the originals was my favorite from that list. But would you agree, or do you think Galkin was better, or Dolls?
Well, I think Dolls. I just had fun in Dolls. I don't know. I like that idea. It was cute.
Um, so out of in California, there were two original houses. So you guys had Poltergeist, which we didn't have, which I would have dug. How was Poltergeist? And then out of the other two sort of original houses, which I think are both redos, like you said, they just pulled some
Yeah.
stuff out of the closet. What are your thoughts on those
Yeah.
two as
Like
well?
whether they're being cost conscious after Epic Universe or they lost their team to Horrors Unleashed, it just felt like this year was kind of a wash. Like we kind of accept this social contract of like you've only been working on this since like July, so like we understand it's going to be what it is, and that's okay because everything is new every year. And this is something I was explaining to Rob earlier, and Annie, you may or may not know this. Out here in LA, we have Knott's Scary Farm and we have Halloween Horror Nights, and it's always like you can't do one without the other. Knott's Scary Farm has been around since the 70s. They're the granddaddy of all the haunts. And each one has its fan base and everything, but like if we're going to look at stop. If we're my son wants to be involved. If we're going to look at original haunts, if we're going to look at non-IP stuff, Knott's really hits it out of the park every single year. They only do 2 new haunts every year, but man, when they do those 2 haunts, they just kill it. And the ticket prices are roughly the same. So like as a conversation that a lot of people in Southern California have is, do I do Knott's or Halloween Horror Nights? It really is one or the other because everything is getting so expensive. You can't really do both unless you're a real, diehard theme park person. So if they're not going to have any, like if the IPs are going to be only okay, if the originals are going to be kind of slapdash, and if the what they have is returning a lot, is like, why would I go and do that? We can go to these returning houses at Knott's that are like a 10 out of 10, and even when a Universal house really hits it all the way, it's at maybe a 7. Just because it's temporary, it's built in a parking lot, versus Knott's Scary Farm has it year round. So it's just a different level of acceptability. So having Poltergeist return, having Scarecrow return, having, Blumhouse returns every year because what are they going to do with the Terror Tram? But like, we have a lot, even Monstros. That's been a fan favorite house year over year. But this year they brought in La Llorona, which they've been doing 5, 6, 7 times since 2010. They've got the same animatronics we've always seen, and like the last half of it was just another La Llorona maze, which they've done, I think, maybe 5 times. Like it's so much repeat and so much slapdash that it feels like this is not the contract we signed up for. Like this, you're not holding up your end of the bargain of bringing us that new stuff that we kind of come to expect from Universal.
By the way, in chat, oh my gosh, your child scared the crap out of me. I thought I saw a ghost.
No, he's 5 and he doesn't have impulse control yet. That's all it is.
You're me neither. So it sounds like you're lukewarm on those 3 houses, Poltergeist and Monstros,
Yeah.
and Scarecrow. But isn't Scarecrow one of the houses that they're having in the Horror Unleashed in Vegas, or am I wrong on that?
No, we have Monsters. We have Exorcist. Can't remember the other 2.
Gotcha.
I don't think Scarecrow is one of them, but it's not this version. This is the one that they had years together perfectly. And then this year they did music by Slash. So I was kind of went into it like looking for Slash's music to be a character like it is for the Universal Monsters houses. And it was just kind of background noise. Like it didn't really have any real presence. And there was just something, I don't know what was changed, but there was something that was kind of not. Oh, it is in Florida or in Vegas. There you go.
Yeah. So Monsters, Texas Chainsaw.
It just So they're just duplicating it from what they have in Vegas, and like it just, I don't know. It had magic the first time it came out. That would have been my favorite house up until Eternal Bloodlines. Oh, my light died. That would have been my favorite house up until Eternal Bloodlines. But there's just something about it this year. It didn't have that same magic that it had previously. I don't know what changed. It just, meh. It was kind of meh.
So last house then, Charlie, the Terror Tram. That sounds to me like it would be a lot of fun. I've done the tram tour where like at the Bates Motel where he comes and tries to get you, like, or the Jaws coming out of the water. Like, is the Terror Tram great, or is it just okay, or are you just
if
tired
you've
of
never
it
done Terror Tram? Yeah, it's the same thing every year. It's they use the War of the Worlds set where they have a downed 747. So if you've never walked through that set, walking past Bates Motel, walking past the War of the Worlds set. Like, it's super cool to go through it once. But if they don't have something, like, they're counting this as a maze, and they've just been doing Blumhouse, like every once in a while they'll try, Hollywood Harry or something, to try and give it a spin. A couple of years ago they did Exterminators, which
I
was
loved
like bugs.
Exterminators. I love that one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was fine, but like, why are a bunch of bugs standing here where a 747 just went down? I feel like there's bigger things going on at the moment
You just don't
if
get
a
it. You just don't
747
understand.
landed on you.
You
But
just don't
like,
understand.
it's just the same thing over and over. And like, I think the Hollywood Harry thing kind of wrapped it into, we're on a movie set, so it kind of made it a little something more. But with Blumhouse, this is just where they stick Blumhouse, because let's be honest, Megan doesn't deserve her own full walkthrough. So they put her as part of this. They put Black Phone as part of this. It's fine for vignettes, when she's got like that document slicer or whatever. Cool gag, cool kill. But that's really kind of all you got from it. And so putting it in these little vignettes, and then like you go around the corner and they're like, oh, by the way, you're at Bates Motel. And now Bates Motel takes over, and then, oh no, there's an airplane. And so you go through the airplane. Like, there's no thought, there's no progression. It's just like, hey, do you remember that we've seen Blumhouse before? And you go through some stuff from The Purge, because 2009 is alive and well at Universal, and so we're going to keep The Purge coming back forever.
Hot
And
takes
then
from
they
Charlie
just
tonight,
don't
I got to
do
tell you.
anything. Yeah, I'm kind of not pleased. Like, there's so much they could be doing with. They have a literal 747 chopped up. We walk through a 747. There's smoke everywhere. They have haunt effects. They've got the psycho house. There's so much you could be doing with this. And they just put the Purge there every year. Like,
I
what?
love this verbiage. 8 mind-ripping haunted houses and the terror tram.
And also the Terror Tram. And that's
Exactly.
absolutely what it is. Like, I
Yep.
don't know anybody but me who has done the Terror Tram in years, because it's a long line. You have to get on the tram. They drive you around to the thing. Then you get off the tram. You walk through the whole experience. Then you wait to get back on the tram. Then they bus you back up here. It's like a 45-minute experience to do Terror Tram, and that's taking away from my time at the rest of the haunt. So
All right.
I
So
don't know anybody else but me.
so
But
you don't
that's the
have.
strategy. That's the
Oh, it's a
strategy, is
people
to
eater
get
for
people
sure.
as to tram them out as far away from the house as possible,
Yep,
drop them off, and let them struggle to get back. Because that's why you
yep,
only have 8 houses.
absolutely.
Get them out of here.
So
Yeah.
so okay. So 8 houses and a tram tour on the West Coast. 10 houses, 5 IP, and 5 original on the East Coast, and scare zones. Though I don't see scare zones listed for Hollywood, right? Or am I missing that? The tram
No, we
tour
have
kind of
scare
takes that
zones.
place. Okay.
No, we have scare
Um,
zones. We do. We have Murder of Crows is one that's back year after year, and that one is pretty cool. It's like giant Stiltwalker crow people. We've got clowns, of course, because it's a Halloween event. So the main drag is like killer clowns with chainsaws, and then I think we've got the one for Monstros where you like exit into a scare zone, and that's the best one every year, because it really does feel like a continuation of the maze, and the performers there, I think, are just top notch. Like, the best scare zone performers are there. And then
gotcha.
we have something downstairs, but like, whatever.
So okay, so Annie, scare zones in on the East Coast. I feel like there were more in the past, and over by Fast and Furious, where like one year it was like Rob Zombie. This year it was like a club over there,
Yeah.
like, and it's just like 4 little stages with a DJ and like 4 women in masks dancing with a like lightsaber.
Yeah.
Um, that felt a little disappointing to me.
I
Were you all about it?
actually think, look, I see tons of people having fun there. That's, that I see people enjoying it. But what I look at is that is the worst, like, crowd of people every year. That zone is just not enjoyable. Last year with Blumhouse, it was like, again, Megan standing there, and it's just like, there's just hundreds of people standing around like filming, like, do something, Megan, do something. And it just like, they had to actually have security stand there and would say, you have to keep walking. You can't stand in front of Megan, because people would just crowd in front of these little characters. And so over the years, it has been a disaster trying to get through there. It's just a nightmare. So I feel like they put something there that kind of keeps people going. Some people will stop and grab drinks. Some people will stop and dance, whatever. But for the most part, people are just, keep it moving through the zone. It's not a zone. It's the, what do they call? Oh, club horror. Club horror is the word.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at that, I see that they had the Mel's Die-In Zombies, which was interesting. Yeah. Just you have to stand over by Mel's and you see them walking around with trays of food, and then the Club Horror, which was usually that one over by Amity that was the club area, and then there were
those weren't zones.
Right, they weren't zones. Yeah, the 4 zones were these: the Origins of Horror, which I guess is right when you walk in. That's the main strip by Minions. And then Masquerade, Dance with Death, the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane, and then the Mutations Toxic 20s. I think Mutations was down by where the tribute store was. The Cat Lady was down near on your way to Animal Actors, ironically. But is there one of the, like, here's the thing though, even though that it felt like there was at least one less because of that club zone, I feel like that they were more interactive. They had a lot of little mini sets set up in those scare zones to like kind of scare you. There was like this cat tunnel that you walk through, and when you get to the end you jump out, and it's like you don't usually see those things. So I kind of it felt like they really this year like mutated what the scare zones were, or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they felt bigger this year. I mean, in the past, that whole area where Kid Zone used to be where house entrances were. So now over the years, we don't use that area anymore. DreamWorks is not open during the event. So that's kind of a dead end. So I think they were able to use that Central Park area, just expand out just beyond just the little pathway, because it was always just like the start and end of that little narrow pathway. But now it goes out into that area where the house is right under the flags, and then you have like that little cat tunnel, like you said. So the zones feel bigger than ever. And even this year, we've brought back Origins of Horror goes through Minions, which last year was a big complaint from people because that area was dead. It was quiet there. You walk through there, nothing was happening. I mean, there was just a lot of dead zones last year. And so I think they've kind of filled that up. So we have 2 experiences like Mel's and the Club Horror, which fill the streets. So there's still more activity, but it's not quite a zone that's going to keep people like standing there or.
Yep.
So I'm really happy. I think they took a lot of feedback last year from complaints, and I think that you can tell this year they've put a lot more in the streets.
So we'll end up like with entertainment here. Nightmare Fuel, I feel like never disappoints and always gets better. I've heard people complain that Nightmare Fuel feels stale. I don't agree, because I feel like every year it gets bigger and better. The stuff they did with the Aerialists this year, the more fire this year, I was totally into it, but it could just be the outfits. I don't know. You tell me. Like, was it better this year or not?
Well, see, I was never a fan of Bill and Ted. I saw it. It's okay. I know people like it, but I feel like Nightmare Fuel is that like hype energy, and it is a little more adult. So again, out in the, walking around the zones, you may see a lot of children, but hopefully when you get in the Nightmare Fuel theater, you don't see children and you just see a lot of ass.
Wow. Charlie, do you guys have a show?
No, we used to have Bill and Ted, and then right on the cusp of a lot of things changing as to whether or not we should have something like that anymore, the set caught fire and it burned down coincidentally, and they just never brought it back. And at Knott's Scary Farm, we have a very similar show called The Hanging that was taken away right around the same time because it was changing cultural opinions at the time. And they brought it back just recently in the last couple of years to Scary Farm. They're doing the hanging again. So we're all kind of like, hey, Universal, why don't you bring back Bill and Ted's? Because I loved Bill and Ted's. That was the only thing, like I'd wait in line for that every year. I loved that show. And
I
I kind of want that to come back. We could totally do it.
I don't want
Don't
to
you
ever
think?
go to Halloween Horror Nights without a Nightmare Fuel. Sorry. I mean, I didn't know what I was getting into the very first time I saw it, but now it is like a must. If I don't hear MCR kicking off the Black Parade with that funky beat to it and all the people dancing with the flashlights and then going in, like, I gotta have it. But I hear a lot of people go, it's the same story. They evolve it every year, but it is basically, you don't get lost if you didn't see it before. But the other thing that I've never seen, Annie, was that Hauntophonic, the Ghoulish Journey, which is
Oh,
the water show, which I've never seen before. I see you're doing that. You
my
love this show?
favorite. I love this show. I think this is my favorite thing at all this season. It blows my mind because I don't like shows. I never stop and watch Lagoon shows or things like that. But when I do my live streams, I love going and standing there and watching the show. It's so the fountains. A few years ago, I think it was 2022. We had Ghoulish was the Lagoon show, and I mean, it was only a few days into HHN that we had this hurricane, and it destroyed the projectors and the fountains. So it's taken years now to get new fountains, new projectors, and a new show. So this is the first show. I believe it's actually kind of just the stuff from Ghoulish, maybe a little updated with they've taken out some of the IPs from that year. So it may be very similar to Ghoulish, but I love it. The fountains are going, the colors, the fountain. I mean, fountains in the show are better than Epic. I mean, quote me.
Ooh.
I know I'll fight. I honestly think these fountains are better. The lights, the color, the projections on the building, the music, everything about this show, just like, I love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we've talked about the houses on both coasts. We talked about the scare zones on both coasts. The entertainment seems to be lacking sorely in, like, chalk one up for Orlando because it seems to be not so great out in
Hmm.
Hollywood. But honestly, yeah, again, those two shows, seeing the Hauntophonic and then also seeing the Nightmare Fuel. I loved being able to see both those. I missed that there were no Megans at the one in Orlando. They used to do a little like kind of impromptu show. They have the Death Eaters come out for a show
Hmm.
in Orlando. They do that, I assume, also in California.
We haven't had Death Eaters in years.
Okay.
I've seen the
Um,
complaints.
and
Yeah.
then they had David S. Pumpkins one year, which I thought was amazing. But I feel like
Yeah, we
art
had that
kind of
last year.
art
Why did
sort of
they do
filled.
that?
I don't know. I thought well, the rumor was this year he was gonna come back, right?
I
I
thought
thought I heard that.
so.
Yeah.
I thought so
Uh,
too.
Preguntas? Yeah, that was always a fun bit and something neat that is a little bit different rather than horror to be able to like have a little bit of comedy on that. That was kind of neat to see. So I know we're going long, but let me ask you guys. So the merchandise this year, I always buy this shirt, which has the logo on the front and then the houses on the back. Every year I buy that one. I was disappointed in the Florida that the tribute store was moved, and I think it was moved because of Rocket being torn up. Maybe no. Why was it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a trickle down effect because without having Rocket open during HHN, they expected the crowds for Mummy would be a lot larger because you lost one coaster, you assume the crowds are going to be larger. The tribute store is built in Mummy's extended queue, so since they thought they were going to need it, they moved the tribute store down to where the arcade
The
used to
arcade,
be at
yeah.
the exit. Yeah, it's terrible. That arcade should have been made a Five Nights at Freddy's arcade, if you ask me. Ed Louis there, arcade should have been Five Nights at Freddy's, and we should have gotten the tribute store where it belongs. Because I'm at the point where, again, conspiracy. So I'm going to start going through Mummy every time I go to HHN to prove that they don't use that room. So next year we're getting it in back where it belongs.
Well, yeah, but I will say though, I didn't like the setup of the tribute store. Last year's, in the past, the store has been an event unto itself. This year, not so much. It was the arcade and the gift shop for Mummy, but The merchandise was okay. They didn't have as many candles, which is, my son loves like the smell of those candles. Maybe that's something that'll come later in the season. Maybe that's not coming at all. I think there was one candle, but the rest of it, the Five Nights at Freddy's merch, I've never seen so much merch for one house or IP as there was for Five Nights at Freddy. There were blankets. There was like 6 different T-shirts for Five Nights at Freddy. There was a Roosevelt's. There was a ton of stuff for Five Nights at Freddy's. I thought the merch was okay. I don't know if there's anything. Was there something stand out for you, Annie, on the East Coast?
Yeah, but it only came out like last week and it sold out. It was the Tribute Store 10th anniversary ornament.
I remember you doing you showing that. I know that the like the vibe of a lot of the merch was that the teaser, the glass windows, this where is it? This stained glass window thing. I know that they had.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like I see Annie looking over. She probably has it. But that they did that whole like the frame, and then every time they announced a house, they had like the little piece that would go into the frame. So that was kind of the vibe of the merch this year in general. Charlie, in Hollywood, do they do the equivalent of a tribute store, or is there a lot of merch?
No, I mean, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, and I don't think we have near that much merch. They went so hard with merch for FanFest nights this year that we had in May.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So much merch. And all of it for pennies on the dollar at the secondhand store. They have this store in City Walk where they sell everything called Take Two. And everything is like, it starts at like 60 or 70% off, and then you get further discounts, and then you get past member discounts on top of that. So I got just about everything I wanted so far as merch from FanFest nights, and I think it was like the grand total for like 2 bags of stuff was like $30. So I think they took a bath on that merch, and they were playing it real safe with the merch this year. There wasn't that great of a selection, and like, yeah, I don't think we have that. That doesn't look familiar to me at all. Like, I go every single time, and like, you get 2 or 3 items for each house, and it's like, the Fallout shirt, and then you got a little backpack or something, and then that's it. It's considerably less than in years past. I thought they were just being conservative, but if you guys are getting better stuff, maybe we'll get it later in the season, because I was there opening night and we didn't have that large of a selection.
Stuff is still coming in.
Really?
We just got the Fallout backpack.
Oh yeah, that looked cool. And then the Pip Boy thing came in late too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way,
I saw that online.
Here's me with my best friend. I just
Oh.
Art's such a cutie. Sorry.
You can't get near him here. You can't get near him here in Orlando out in the street.
Because everybody else is there?
It's like 1 million people. Like, whenever I'm walking through the park and I see just like 1,000 people in a corner, I'm like, oh, there's Art.
Yep.
So then from a food standpoint, I do love that they do these kind of like Epcot food and wine festival booths that are themed to the food, to the movies. And they had the Clown Cafe, which is perfect. Again, if you didn't see the movie, you wouldn't understand why that's freaking hilarious. But the Clown Cafe is like, it's a whole song, and it's a bit in the movie. And the fact that it's a food truck, it was so easy for them to do it. Charlie, you were talking about like seeing like a movie and knowing where all the sets were going to be. We knew like it was perfect. The Clown Cafe. They did these art like sunglasses like he wore in, I think it was the second movie, as cookies, and a couple other things. They had like the kind of like the IV bag from Fallout and some of that kind of stuff. Is there something, Charlie? Did you guys have that kind of food stuff?
We had a lot of different food offerings like that. The one that's going nuts out here is the Jason Voorhees mask, the s'more. Which no. Here's the thing. I don't know if you've seen what we do out here, because we had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man last year, and I was so excited for it. No, you know why? Because ours is a plain on a graham cracker that they spray some brown sticky stuff on. So it's a cold marshmallow, and I waited in line for this thing. I got it. I was like, yeah, for my whole party. Like, I bought marshmallows for everybody, because I was like, this is the viral thing. This is what we're going to go for. And I got it, and I was like, this is super lame. It's a cold marshmallow. And I went back. I was like, I must have misremembered this because I was watching everybody in Florida getting this. Like they broiled that. I thought it was going to be a s'more. And I was so disappointed. And so two different stands I went to for these marshmallows, and both of them had like just a sticky glaze on top. There was no real fire. So when they said, "Oh, this is going nuts for this Jason Voorhees marshmallow," I'm like, "LA has no taste in desserts, so I don't trust you anymore. You're not. This needs to be flame broiled, and it's not. It's sticky brown glaze on top of the marshmallow again. Like that's not what I'm there for. I want some fire on my marshmallow."
Yeah. Last year I would tell him
Yeah,
torch my
actual
marshmallow going
toasting.
twice. That's
Yeah,
traumatic because I saw, and I thought last year with the Stay Puffed, I thought yours looked like slightly tan, whereas ours looked like someone was torching them. But I just thought, oh, maybe yours were in an oven where they were like more evenly cooked or something, like versus our booths. Now I'm like really upset. I'm canceling my annual pass out there.
I had no notes on the on the Stay Puft last year. No notes. It was
It was
immaculate. It was
great.
perfect. It tasted good. It was cute as a button. I would have paid more for it probably. But this year there weren't really any things that like really stood out to me. I got the glasses just on a fluke because I wanted something to eat.
They were
And
bad, right?
they were okay. They were just cookie
No, you
like
got
they
to be honest, Rob. They were bad, weren't they?
no, I don't think they were bad. No, no, no. I don't think they were bad. They just weren't. They just weren't. They were just very mid. They weren't impressive in any way, shape, or form. It was just cookies that were shaped like glasses. That's it. There weren't like, oh my gosh, let me get a second order of this. But I wasn't like, let me spit this out. I mean, so somewhere in between, it was just like, okay, that's fine. I took the picture. I got what I wanted. Let's move on. Anybody else want some of this before I throw it out? That kind of a thing. Yeah, it wasn't bad. You're trying to get me to say it was bad. I didn't think it was bad.
I'm just trying to get you to say what everyone else has said because I've told everyone, I said, I guarantee I will not ever meet a person that says those were good.
You
Because
didn't hear me say they were good though, did you?
I
I just
know.
said it wasn't bad. I don't know. I guess in general, like, because I've done this with my kids before, it's like we want to hit the haunted houses and we want to see the scare zones and we want to do it all and we got to see Nightmare Fuel. And my son was he spent so much on FNAF merch. It was just obscene. And then, then we want to do the foods and see the characters and all. So we didn't get a chance to go see the Death Eaters this time, but we've seen them in the past. I'm sure it's the same show. The food was just okay. I feel like they had the cupcake from FNAF and then the popcorn with the chicken on top, which was weird. And then the rat away. That's that like IV thing that they had. So it was all right. I just think the food was like was just okay this year. I don't think there was anything that was super standout-ish about the food. And again, the merch
yeah,
was good, but we were looking for those candles that we got in the past. It's like, what does the Terrifier house smell like? We want one of those candles to be able to see, and maybe we just smell it and go, nope, that's not something I want in my life, and we put it back on the shelf. But at least a lot of times it's about the way that the production materials smell or that the smoke smells when you walk in, and it's just a very strong memory when you hear the if you've bought the ET candle, I love the ET candle. Smells just like walking into ET, and I'm all about it. I just wish they had more of that. So I feel like we've kind of touched on everything here. Is there anything that we've missed out on? I know we've talked a lot longer than I told you guys we would talk, but I feel like when you get the three of us together talking about HHN, it's going to be a lot longer than we thought. And thank you guys for hanging with us in the chat. Fire Chief said, ask Annie about the spaghetti pizza. By the way, no. Before you tell me about that, I want to tell you that my son was excited about it until I told him why I think it existed. Because if you watch the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, in the very end scene, the little girl's in the back seat, Josh Hutcherson's in the front, says, what do you want, spaghetti or pizza? And she says, why not both? And when he realized that the reason that it existed was because you're getting both, he was like, I don't want that now. Because he's just weird that way. But that's why it existed as the spaghetti pizza. But I also think, wasn't that a bit on iCarly or something at one point?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I've rambled now and I've kind of burst your bubble because you're really excited to talk about it. Go.
It's like I think iCarly was. I think I'm too old for iCarly. I think that was when I aged out of watching TV.
And I'm
um,
not.
the spaghetti, the spaghetti pizza, spagizza. That's what we call it. It is the
Okay.
best. I was really skeptical, and we even talked about, oh, could you just buy the pizza at Louis and buy the spaghetti at Louis and put them together? But no, because it's just not. They put the garlic on the bread. I watched them in the window putting the garlic on the bread, and I'm like, oh, it looks good. So I had that before I came to do this stream, by the way. I got my little boo in my lap, by the way. So I got excited. So I was like, spaghetti. I could eat it all
Uh,
the time.
Mike said that makes no sense. I assume talking about the pizza and spaghetti. Why not both? Is anybody else have another reason for it? It's not part of the Five Nights at Freddy's lore. So, oh, you have the answer.
I have a, so I really think like the the and I know this isn't something that you guys apparently know of outside of LA, but like the competition between Knott's Scary Farm and Universal out here is really fierce. Like it's like a cultural thing, and it has been forever. Um, they last year and the year before, Knott's did a dish called spaghetti pie, where they did like a fried spaghetti dish, and it was a fan favorite. It went, popular on the internet. I wouldn't say viral, but it was popular. So for the berry bloggers and everything. And I think having spaghetti pie as such a popular thing, they were like, oh, we're going to take this and we're going to do this. Like, let's just try it. And they just put it out to whatever funnel they could to get it into the park, because I noticed like Knott's will do something and then Universal does it literally either later that season or the following year. And like even Knott's had a like sign off at their event, "See you in the fog," and they had T-shirts made, "See you in the fog." And then literally later that year, Universal had a T-shirt that said "See you in the fog," where it's like, why are you copying them? You're just doing like they came out with this in August. Why are you doing this now in October? Like we all know where this is from. But that's I don't know if it's like they're seeing what Knott's does here and trying to emulate it or what, but like that's always the assumption that I have, is like they steal from each other because they both do it. They do it back and forth. But like the pizza made of spaghetti or whatever, pizza on spaghetti, they did basically the same thing at Knott's the last 2 years, and it was like a fan favorite dish.
Well, what we didn't talk about was that the pizza place was at Luigi's in Orlando
Hmm.
became
Louis.
the Freddy Fazbear's like restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, because I mean, and it made perfect sense, right? Because it's a pizza place, and so they turn it into that, and you could buy that the a lot of the Five Nights at Freddy's food there. I don't think you could buy
Hmm.
it anywhere else really, but you bought the food there. And then my kids went down to look at it, took some pictures in front of it. I didn't get a chance to see it because we were stopped by somebody else and talking to them. So, but I think that they just did it because of the movie, but maybe your theory is correct. They're just stealing things. I think the bigger question that is on the minds of the people in the chat here is why I was watching iCarly. So, all to that I would just say, I know you
Because
see somehow the world will change for me and be so wonderful. That's really what I want to say to everybody. And if you know that that's the theme song, then you are also part of the problem. Okay, so anyway, so I think we've covered everything. Again, it's a great event, and I honestly, like I said, I was a total stan of Mickey's Not So Scary. I'm going to that. Why would I go to this other thing? That sounds gross. It sounds creepy. It's like I think we had a couple people probably that dropped from the chat were like, "This isn't my cup of tea." We'll hear about your top 5 stories, people, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna do something else instead of talk about HHN. I think most people are missing out if they don't go because it is quite an epic event. And it sounds like, Charlie, you're a little bit tired of what they're doing. Maybe they're letting you down a little bit out there on the West Coast. I'm still a fan of what they're
yeah.
doing in Orlando, but maybe I just don't go enough. I don't know.
Well, I think it's also, a accessibility thing, because like LA is a real theme park town. It's not, oh, are you going to go to a haunt this year? It's which ones are you going to? You know, everybody does it, and we do it multiple times every year because that's just what we do here. And we have to choose between Six Flags has Fright Fest, we have in Griffith Park, we have the Haunted Hayride, we have Scary Farm, we have Howl of Scream down in San Diego, which is only 2 hours away. Like it's so much a part of it. So it's a much more competitive market, I think. Everybody is grappling for those dollars out here. So if you don't come correct, if you don't have just a banger year, you're not going to get those dollars. Somebody else is. So I think it's a different environment out here.
Okay, so I want to get final thoughts from both of you guys. But before I do that, Charlie, because you keep talking about it, if you had to pick one, if you could only go to Knott's or to Universal, which one would you go to? Because I feel like the answer is Knott's.
Knott's. It is this year. Most of the time it's Universal, and I gotta say this is year over year. I've noticed a bit of a decline year over year, but this is the first year where it's like it's not even a discussion. Knott's has been killing it, and Universal has been kind of letting me down. And this year in particular has been like, yeah, there's not a lot of like Five Nights at Freddy's is really the only thing that I think is worth it to go for. Everything else, you've either seen it in years past or it's just kind of okay. So Knott's continues to innovate. They've got some great new mazes this year. They're trying new fun stuff that's very creative. And I just don't feel that Universal is pushing any kind of boundaries the way they used to. They used to be like, oh, they've got the budget, let's really turn it up. You know, like you mentioned Alien versus Predator, having a giant alien queen, like that was so cool. You're not going to see that anywhere. And I just feel like they're not swinging for the fences anymore. They're just kind of doing whatever because they're probably overworked with Vegas and with Epic and with everything else they've been doing. Universal has been giving us so much recently that Halloween Horror Nights just doesn't have the budget or the time to really swing for the fences anymore.
I think they took the Halloween Horror Nights crew and they sent them to Texas to build that little kids park is what happened. So that should be fun to see how twisted that worked. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let me get final thoughts from you guys, but I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight. I'm sorry we ran so long, but it's just bonus content for you. So hopefully you guys got something out of this because we had a good time going to both coasts of HHN and getting to share it with you guys is the best. I do want to kind of give a big look at what we've got coming up on the channel. So tonight you're with Park Adventures Club. Wednesday night is a look on the plus side. Stephanie and I are talking about Sister Act, and then Friday it says Park Adventures Club. That's a lie. We're doing the trivia on Friday night, but we are doing live trivia. It's a show that my son hosts called Hakunama Trivia. But then next Sunday and the Sunday after, we have no show because I'm going to be in Japan. Crazy, I know. Yeah, Annie's clapping behind the scenes here. On Wednesday, 10/1, Charlie and I are doing the entire Halloween Town saga on a look on the plus side, and then on Friday the 10/3, Stephanie does a show called Castaways, which is a show about the people who used to make the magic at the Disney parks. And then on 10/8, we're going to have Freaky Friday. We're going to talk about the 1976 one. And when I get back, oh boy, howdy, Annie, I'm going to talk a lot about some Japan because it's going to be my first trip. I know you've been like 80 times. So I'm hoping that we get through it and make it back okay. But if I end up like living there, I hear it's the best of all of the Disney, so I can't wait to see that.
I'll come visit you all the time. I'm going to invite myself to your house.
Let's do it.
We're all inviting each other around here, so
we're all
you live in Japan
this together. Oh, wait, and see, now I'm playing my hand again. I'm doing more kid stuff. I do want to give a shout out to our Patreon is GoPack, patreon.com/GOPAC. Thank you to all of our members. We appreciate you guys who are in the chat here tonight, and if you would like to be part of our Park Adventurers Club, that's how you can sign up. And thanks for our Zebra Mezzanine and Treasure Room folks. And don't forget, I mean, the reason for the season, we got Annie is Adventuring with Annie over there. Don't forget to check out, if you are not coming here tonight just to see Annie, just make sure that you go check out her channel. Almost 7K. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's really
nice.
In a very short amount of time, people obviously know where to go to get the good stuff. So don't forget to sign up for Adventuring with Annie. But now, as we are a club and we're going to kind of like pass judgment here on Halloween Horror Nights 2025. I want to start with Annie and get your thoughts on Halloween Horror Nights 2025, just like your overall thought and, you know, standout favorites, things that people shouldn't miss, etc. Go.
This year is so much better than last year. I think the amount of entertainment in the streets, everywhere you go, walking around the park, feels like Halloween Horror Nights. Last year there were a lot of dead zones, so I've got to say, amazing there. I do have to say though, I think the houses this year, they're good, but I don't find one that's, other than maybe Five Nights at Freddy's and Jason, I don't find like a giant wow factor, which I gotta say, I agree with Charlie about certain things I thought would be a little more intense this year, and we were going back in time a bit. But overall, amazing. The houses are always fantastic. Shows are great. The food, hopefully next year we get a good s'more again. I would like that. Keep the spaghetti. Don't miss the spaghetti. Do Jason, do Freddy, eat spaghetti. Watch Hauntofonic. And that's all I got to say.
And then Not Scary Charlie.
Yeah, speaking to anyone who's within driving distance of Southern California, Universal is kind of not bringing it this year. Not Scary Farm is really knocking it out of the park, and I'm kind of apprehensive as to whether or not Knott's is gonna be solvent next year. So I don't want to say this is like the last year, but like we all kind of know what's going on with Six Flags Entertainment Corporation. So they're really burning the midnight oil to give us such a great haunt this year. And Universal, I feel like they've got, you know, they've been giving us so much that Halloween Horror Nights is kind of falling to a secondary, tertiary, quaternary priority, and it feels that way. I still had a nice time. Like Universal brought me out. I got to go through the mazes and everything, and I got to film with the lights on. So I'm very grateful to be there. But I've been doing this long enough to know, like, I know you can do better than this. I know Universal can do better than this. This just isn't the year. That's not to say don't go, because if you've never been on Scarecrow, it's going to be great. If you've never walked through the down 747 on the Terror Tram, like, it's a wholly unique experience. But speaking to a lot of the Southern Californians who, you know, you do this every year, you've seen everything they have to do, and you've seen Poltergeist, you've seen Scarecrow, you've seen Blumhouse. Paying that ticket price to go in for Five Nights at Freddy's is a lot. So, and there's so much else to do out here, and also gas is like almost $5 a gallon. So like, there's other places you can spend your money. I don't know that if this is something you've done every year, I don't know that this is the year necessarily to come back, which sucks to say, but that's the reality of the situation.
And Charlie's done a huge in-depth video for his experiences at Halloween Horror Nights of each and every house and what he did. And we're going to drop that on this channel so that we can share it with more people. And it just really well done, man. So I feel like that Universal owes you something now, because I feel like, you know, you're trying to love it. But I feel like if we're going to vote, I feel like East Coast wins this year, because I feel like we had the best experiences, and yes, we would like them to do better. We would always like our theme parks to do better for less money. If you could, that'd be great. But I honestly, I had a great time. I agree with you, Annie. I think that the houses, I wanted to see more. I wanted to see better. I wanted to see bigger. But I did like what I saw. And so I except for Grave of Flesh, everything else I enjoyed. But that one, I'm just like, you could just shut that one down, and we don't need that one, or send other people there. It's fine. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Again, thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. And we will not have a show for the next 2 Sundays, but we'll have a lot of stuff in between, with a look on the plus side on Wednesday nights, Hakuna Trivia this Friday night, Castaways the next Friday night, and then we'll be back here, and probably I will be talking about a lot of things in Japan that I probably screwed up because I did it wrong. But I can't wait to talk about all that. And thank you, my friends here, Annie and Charlie, for being here and being the experts on these things. And I hope to see you guys again really soon. Have a great week. Be kind to each other. We will see you next time. And don't forget, adventure It's out there. Have a good one.